So coming to the season, I had the Minnesota Timberwolves guys in the NBA finishing as a top four seed. And early in the year, okay, fine. You know what? I'll stand on it. I
Admit it.
had them. I
Admit
had
it.
them winning 55 games. Okay, and that in the Western Conference was going to be enough to get the number one seed.
That ship has sailed.
And I thought it did, Justin. Early in the season, when the transition for Rudy Gobert was a tough one, and specifically with Karl Anthony Towns, an All NBA player missing the last 20 some odd games.
Didn't you have them as the one seed?
I just said that.
Oh,
55
okay.
wins.
Okay.
And you know what, Justin? They're 8.5 games out right now from the number one seed. In spite of all their injuries, losing Jordan McLaughlin, their backup point guard, Taurean Prince, their best shooter, and get this, Karl Anthony Towns, since November, they are 28 and 26, 12 and 5 in 2023. Anthony Edwards is currently breaking out into an all-star. And with how much of a usage rate he's taken from Minnesota as more of a point guard, D'Angelo Russell has taken more of a backseat role. And he's having his most efficient season so far in his career, which really does stand out to me. There's been a little more energy here. And just like last season, one of the Timberwolves started off under 500 and climbed their way out the gutter, out of the play-in tournament, and into a playoff series with Memphis where they took them to 6 games. I have this feeling with Minnesota. You can't count them out. This year at home, they're 19 and 11, 6 and 4 in their last 10 games. And when Karl Anthony Towns does come back, I think we're going to look at this as one of the potential sleepers to rise up into the top 4 of the standings. You know, they're only a game out. Actually, they have the same record as the Mavericks, one less loss. So they're both 8.5 games out from first place. But the Clippers, as the current number 4 seed, they're only 1 game ahead of them. And when you look at the Western Conference, all of the teams from 6 to 13 deal with the same issues. It's availability of their superstars, it's the quality of their supporting cast, and then just getting things to click with those two factors gelling. For Minnesota, they're building their identity without Karl Anthony Towns, integrating Gobert into the mix, and really speeding up the timeline to getting him acclimated in a brand new system. And their role players, Kyle Anderson has been lights out over the last month and a half. Naz Reid, we talked about him before the show. Naz Reid is a player that's on the trade block because as a former undrafted player, he's soon to be a free agent, and for Minnesota, they may not be able to retain him. And I've talked on the show about how bad the Rudy Gobert trade was. Believe me, the Rudy Gobert trade is probably one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with an I. The Rudy Gobert trade is one of the most asinine moves in NBA history. I mean, Walker Kessler already is almost as good of a player for $45 million less almost, and he's 10 years younger. That being said, the Timberwolves have still found a way to overcome that, and for this season at least, Gobert is making more of an impact and fitting in better and better. I have my concerns about this team in the postseason, but I felt it was a much-needed status update that the Minnesota Timberwolves' chances as a top 4 seed, my friends, are still much alive. And truth be told, Anthony Edwards, if he keeps playing the way he has, which is near 30 points per game since 2023 started, I think we're looking at him as the exact future MVP candidate Justin and I laid him out to be in September. It doesn't sound too crazy because he's starting to play together in year 3. And oh, by the way, he's 21 years old.
I'm happy you're opening your eyes because we had a conversation not too long ago where we spoke about Rudy Gobert and this trade and the Timberwolves, standing at that moment. I don't know how long ago that was. It was a couple of weeks ago. And I was the one that told you, it's one of those situations where you just got to stand pat and let this team mesh. Not everything's going to, be sunshine and rainbows right away. So while I don't believe there'll be a number 1 seed, I could see them being a top 5 seed at some point if Cat gets going when he gets back into the rotation and he's his all-star self. But you guys got to stop, man. Stop jumping the gun. Like, allow these teams to actually take their time and grow together. I mean, Gobert will be playing better basketball. Him and Cat still need to develop a better relationship on the court together, being that they'll be on the floor together a long periods of time. But yeah, take your time, guys. Stop jumping the gun so soon.
I forgot to mention, while he has played much better in the last couple of weeks, he didn't play in their win last night versus the Warriors. in overtime. Want to add that in.
So the way I look at this, right? I see one team in that top six, really top three, Western Conference that I'm like, you're kind of an imposter in my opinion, and that's the Sacramento Kings. No disrespect, but it's just for me when I compare them to the other teams around them, I just feel like they're just a tad inferior. I love De'Aaron Fox. I love De'Aaron Fox. I mean, he is an exciting basketball player to watch. But and I know Sabonis is getting his love. He's playing out of his mind right now. But it's just for me, I just feel like they're a step just behind. Where I think that they're gonna fall off. They'll probably still be in the playoffs, in my opinion, but I just don't think they're gonna be a top 3 seed going down the stretch of the NBA season. Obviously, you named the Clippers; they're starting to get it going a lot right now. Getting healthy, Kawhi is playing out of his freaking mind. I'm loving it. They're been said. We've talked about that they're buyers at the trade deadline. They're looking to make a move for a point guard. You talk about Golden State still getting their bearings together. They're still trying to get healthy, still trying to get the chemistry and figure everything out. Phoenix, they're missing Devin Booker right now. New Orleans, Zion is not back yet.
He has returned, but he's trying to get into the flow after missing was 2.5 months.
And that's the same thing with Zion. When he comes back, he's gonna have to work himself back in the flow. So they're gonna get the Lakers. AD's getting himself back in. I think they're gonna make a run here right before the All-Star break, and I think after, hopefully, if AD is still healthy, I think that they can make a run. They're gonna get into the playoffs or play-in tournament. So. Yeah, Minnesota, it's interesting. If they're all healthy, though, if all those teams are healthy and you stack them up, I still just think there's still like you said, there's still, I mean, if Rudy and Cat are on the floor at the same time, there's still a thing that's got to be worked out there. And I don't know if there is an answer for that. I got to be honest. I really don't.
The answer is sitting Cat down the stretch. Or sorry. The answer is sitting Rudy down the stretch. My apologies.
That's freaking insane, man, to think about that. You just made that blockbuster trade. You're paying him all that money, and you're going to sit him down in the most important minutes of the game. And I understand why. I do understand. Free throw shooting, offensive skill set is not there, and he's more of a liability on that end.
More of a drop back big, and those guys on the perimeter can't really hang. And
yes.
He's not a liability guarding in space, but he played in the Eurobasket this last summer, so he's dealt with some wear and tear in his body and a groin injury. So he's already losing some of that quickness that's being zapped. And along the way, he was never a heavy switch defender like a Draymond Green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't think Minnesota's going to be able to get there, John, top 4 seed. They're definitely not getting number 1 seed. That is just a pie in the sky. That's not happening. Yeah, I think the Clippers are going to get in there. I think they're going to be a top 3 seed. I got to be honest with you. So it's going to be real interesting down the stretch, man. Hopefully these teams can get healthy. That's obviously all we want to see is the stars and the players being healthy so we can see these guys compete. That's one of my biggest gripes with the NBA watching earlier in the season is just a lot of the stars take games off and you want to tune into a nationally televised game and then you see, 2 of the biggest stars aren't even playing. So what the hell does this game even really matter? If these guys are playing in the playoffs, it's going to be a completely different game. So yeah, I just wishing for health, please, so we can, witness the best basketball possible.
There's no doubt. And no team can stay fully healthy. It's just not possible with how long the season is.
Very rare.
Which is what makes it so meaningful, so paramount for teams like the Timberwolves who overcome injuries and come out better for it. Honestly, if Cat played in the stretch, I don't know if they'd even be higher in the standings because I think this has been good for them. Serving them with Karl-Anthony Towns out the lineup, giving Anthony Edwards the keys. Because this is Ant-Man's team. It's no longer Cat's. He's dealt with injury issues in 3 of the last 4 seasons, and the reason they made the Gobert trade was to fit around Karl-Anthony Towns' defensive woes. And in the process, you have committed to the word before, it wasn't incredulous, but that's kind of the word I was looking to go with. One of the most unbelievable trades, one of the stupidest trades ever, trading literally Rudy Gobert but 10 years younger for Rudy 10 years older. And I just feel like with Minnesota, there is a cap on this team in the playoffs because of that investment, which was so horribly planned out, with no assets to really improve the quality of the cast, and no future draft picks to build around Anthony Edwards. That's the real concern here. But the biggest positive is the fact that Anthony Edwards is playing he's playing at an All-NBA level, not just All-Star. And earlier in the season, he was just the same player as last year, and that was part of their struggles early. But we see him take a step forward as not only a player, but a leader. And he's a fun player, man. I was talking about Joel Moran and what's on Tap NBA yesterday on the Joel Moran show. Ant-Man is one of the most enjoyable listens, whether it's a post-game press conference or him in the games when he's locked in. He has that switch where he can get into a flow state on the court, but then when he's off of it, he's playful, he's charming, he's energizing. And for this Timberwolves team, having somebody that's got thick skin, can take the heat, will improve when a teammate tells him to be better in transition or to make this pass. He'll work on some of those things where he struggled early on. And honestly, Anthony Edwards was one of the most disrespected players I've ever seen in the pre-draft process. Everybody compared him to Andrew Wiggins because of his personality, and there were some, I guess, flags and question marks about whether or not he wanted to be a great player. And right now we're seeing him play at an elite level. So we talk about Zion, the type of disrespect he often got because of the weight issues last year, missing time. Anthony Edwards might be more disrespected a player than some of those guys like Anthony Davis, just because the discord around them is always so negative, but when they're balling out, almost nobody's got nothing to say.